When it comes to big trucks, most guys opt to toss out the stock tires and wheels in favor of bigger tires and a slick set of large wheels because they look great and they look cool. And no one can argue that. However, those bigger tires and wheels are also very heavy and they cause a lot of up and downstream problems for your truck. We'll dive into what you need to know in this episode of AMSOIL Garage. Hey guys, it's Greg Jones for Engine Builder, and today's episode will cover some of the issues larger tires and wheels can cause for your truck. In simple terms, it's all about rotational mass. If we really wanted to take a deep dive, we could go into some engineering calculations and show you, but rather than do that, we'll explain rotational mass like this. The more each wheel and tire weighs, the more energy it takes to spin it round and round, which means from an engine perspective, you've got to push the throttle harder, and therefore, several things happen. Your efficiency is going down, the amount of fuel you're using goes up, and the amount of load on your engine goes up just to reach the speed you're trying to go. Now, your engine is very capable and has additional power, but it may not be built to live at that power level, traveling on the freeway at 70 miles per hour for its entire life. It was built knowing it was going to see a much lower load at that speed for that duration. That larger load is effectively taking time off your engine's life. Now, looking at this issue downstream, that feeds to the transmission, which goes to drivetrain components, drive shafts, U-joints, your differential, axles, and so on. All that power that you need in addition to turn those tires needs to be managed by the transmission, by the differential, by all the things that touch it. The problem depends on the size of the tires and wheels we're talking about. If you're just driving around on the road, the drivetrain's probably going to be just fine. However, the transmission is going to take a beating because it's not used to having that amount of resistance behind it and seeing that amount of torque going to it to accomplish the same speed if it had smaller tires and wheels to handle. The amount of load on your torque converter and the amount of load on your clutch packs in your transmission are taking additional load and forces that they weren't normally designed to see. The result is a reduction in the lifespan of your transmission because of the additional weight of your tire's rotational mass and the torque that your engine has to send to the transmission in order to spin them around. The force on your gear set in your rear end and the differential is the same thing. The gear set will see a higher average level of force on the gear teeth than they normally did with stock tires and wheels. Now again, just traveling around on asphalt, people can get away with doing this. You probably won't see failures within the time you own the vehicle because you're driving on a flat, smooth piece of asphalt. But if you take that truck off-road, that's where you really find yourself in trouble, and it becomes the issue of slip grip. When your tires are slipping versus gripping, that's when you start to see real torque differences because of the size of that tire and the amount of torque that turns it. That's when you really see issues with transmissions, the frictions in your transmission, U-joints, and differential gears because it's seeing a much larger torque input from the engine and a much larger resistive torque from the tire. Eventually, you exceed the design limits that the OEM engineer designed into it. All these components are designed knowing that they see a specific amount of horsepower and a specific amount of torque, and the tires that are there and the efficiency of the driveline. It's all an equation. Then they apply safety factors on top of that for everything in the truck because they know people will do what people do, and they don't want tons of warranty claims. But eventually over time, you're going to blow past all those safety factors depending on the size of the tire and the weight of the tire and the size of the rim, the weight of the rim, and how you drive and where you drive. You will be pushing that vehicle to the extent of what it was designed for and eventually find the weak link and it will fail. Now it's awesome that we want to look cool with rims and tires. However, people have to understand what they're doing to their system and the additional forces that they're applying to every other component of the drivetrain because of their desire for bigger rims and tires to look cool. Fluids themselves can play a beneficial additional safety factor to help protect you when you're doing this. Engine oils that have additional anti-wear and EP additives in them for load carrying are beneficial. Having a gear oil that has additional EP additives to protect from gear-to-gear face touching because of the additional torque is important. That better gear oil will also help protect your differential. Transmission fluid is the same thing. You want a fluid that's going to be able to manage additional heat because the trans is going to develop more heat. Now guys, this info isn't meant to discourage people from customizing their trucks with larger wheels and tires. Rather, we want you to understand what you're doing and that there are some things you can do to help protect your truck in this scenario. All right guys, that does it for this episode of AMSOIL Garage. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
This video is brought to you by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. Visit AMSOIL.com for more information.